Here we go, boys. Let's make some Waaagh banners. Welcome back. Great to have you. If this is your first time here, great to see you. And here's what's up. If you want to improve your wargaming, make your tabletop battles more epic, and give your wargaming budget more power, then you better quickly smash the subscribe button and ding the bell. That way, you're not going to miss anything. Now let's check out what you need to make this Waaagh banner. Okay guys, so here's all the things that you're going to need to make this piece of terrain. First and foremost, you're going to need your foam that you're going to make the logs out of. You're going to need a knife to cut it out with. You're going to want a wire brush of some description to texture the foam up. You're going to need some sandpaper to smooth the foam out before we texture it. I don't know why I said it in that order. You're going to need some acrylic gap fill to hold some things together with. You're going to need some super glue for attaching your card. You're going to need some card to form the spiky bits in the walls of the crow's nest. You're going to need some 3mm MDF, which is going to form the base of your crow's nest to give it some rigidity. You need the usual assortment of brushes. You're going to need some paint to colour it up, particularly a black paint to cover all of the foam bits. And if you're feeling brave, you can even use some spray paint to finish off the other bits. Although you need to be careful with this and make sure you get some good thorough coverage with the base coat on anything that is foam. You also need some carpet tacks to attach some bits with to give it a much more realistic feel. And you're also going to need your bits box to loot some weapons from for your Waaagh banner. Anything with a long barrel works great. Okie dokie, so first things first, we're going to cut out a strip of foam from our board. You don't need to be super precise, but you want it to be roughly 30 by 30 and make it long enough. You can always cut it down later, so I'm just going to grab the knife and just score a line along there like so. You know what, we'll go to there. And then once you've got your line scored in, you can cut it a bit deeper, just cut right along the thing. Obviously a nice sharp knife makes this easier, so that you end up with something like that, which we are going to probably cut this one in half, and we'll probably need a bit more than this, and that's going to form the legs of our Waaagh banner. Okay, so I've cut out another 2 of those battens, and then I've sliced them in half to give 6 pieces of foam about yay big, and to give you a sense of how big that is, that's it sitting next to Warboss drill bit. It's about twice the height. So we're going to take our foam, and it's not looking very much like a log of wood yet. So we're going to fix that, and we're going to start by carving off the corners. And you just go in from the corner and drop it down. Much in the same way we did with our Necron crystals. And if you're not sharp, it's a lot easier. Until you're left with something messy like that. And you're going to do that on all of them, and then we're going to sand them down nice and smooth. Okay, so now we're going to take our coarse sandpaper. I've got some 120 grit sandpaper here. You want to use coarse because it's going to leave some lines in it, which are going to help to add to the wood bark effect of the logs. So when you're sanding it, you want to make sure that you're running along the piece so that any lines that are left in it look like they're running along the trunk of a tree, really. And this will produce quite a bit of dust, so if you don't like dust, you're probably going to want to be in a well-ventilated area or wear a dust mask. Bam! So I have smoothed them all down with the sandpaper so that they're roughly a log shape. So we're going to take these 3 and just toss them aside and focus on these 3. So the next thing that we need to do is we need to apply a more bark-like texture, because as you can see, they're quite smooth and that's not very log-like. So starting with one of them, we're going to take our wire brush and ever so lightly brush it down the log, going along it, going around the entire thing to put some light score marks into the piece of foam to make it look more like bark. And you can go around a couple of times. You need to make sure that you do this as light as you can, because if you start going too heavy, you're just going to tear the foam up heaps and it's going to look awful. and you end up with something scored up like that, and it looks a bit like, well, like a tree with bark on it. So we're going to do that on all of them, and then we're going to lop a couple of degrees off each of the end so that they lean over a bit to form the tripod of our Waaagh banner. Okay, so I've got the texture all applied. I don't know how well you can see that on all three of them now. So the next step is we need to put some angle on them so that rather than standing up like this, they are like this. So to do that, we're going to put them down like this, and we're going to line them up so they're flat at the bottom. And then we're going to grab our knife, we're going to put it out as long as possible. Actually, we might cut two of them, and we're just going to go down a little bit, and we're going to angle it so that it comes out like so we waste as little as possible. And we just cut down like so, like that, so they have a bit of angle on them. Then we are going to carefully bring them around to the other side, trying to disturb them too much, and we're going to put a similar angle on them down here, and we're just going to cut down like so. I have a hunch I put way too much on. Check to see, you can take your discs. Oh, actually, no, they're about the same. So that's got about the same angle on it, so we'll just toss one of those aside and use this middle one, line it up, and we can cut down there, trying to get the angle as similar as possible. So now we have three logs that come in on an angle like so, and we will stick them together using our piece of MDF, which will go on top of the Waaagh banner. So the next step is we're going to grab our piece of MDF, and this one's actually pretty much the right size, so you just want it about that sort of size. You can make it bigger if you want, or smaller, or whatever. We're going to take that, and we are going to take our gap filler, and we are going to put a bit of it onto all of these, like so. And then you take a piece of MDF. If you've used this for doing other stuff on, it's covered in score marks. I'd recommend putting that side up so you have some texture visible. And we are just going to try to get these to be as level as possible. Once you've got the individual logs level, you're going to take a piece of MDF with the score marks facing up, and you kind of want it so that the flat sides don't line up with any of them to make it look as random as possible. And we're just going to stick it down like so, and you end up with something like this. It's nice and stable. If you want, you could make them a little bit longer. This one is a tiny bit short, and it ends up coming to about the height of a wall, so yeah, it works pretty good. You can make them varied a little bit, so you could have bigger ones for the entrance to your orc encampment and smaller ones back in if you want, or vice versa. Make them a bit varied to make it look even more orky, because orcs don't measure anything. They just slap it together and see what happens. So once that's set, we will apply the card to the sides of our Waaagh banner. Okay, so the gap filler has set now, and it's nice and firmly attached. Now we're going to bring in our card, and we're going to put some supports between here, as well as put a little sign on the front that says Waaagh. So to start with, we're going to want to take our card, and we want to measure the length roughly, so it's going to be about that long. So you just take your knife, and you want to cut maybe a bit more than that. So about that tall, and we're going to make it go out to there. So you end up with something like that, which we'll be able to put onto, let's make that the front, and that's going to have Waaagh on it. So then you're going to make some strips that are the same length but thinner, which are going to act as sort of bracing for the other sides of the banner. Once you've got those cut out, the next thing that you're going to want to do is we need to put sort of some wall or railing around the crow's nest of the Waaagh banner. So to do that, we're going to take our Waaagh banner, and we're going to sit it down, and we're going to take a measurement that is close enough. Cut in like so. I want to take it up to about that sort of height, so that when an orc boy is standing in there, sort of his waist is in line with the top of it, so maybe even a little bit longer. So about that sort of height. Then we're going to cut back along there so that we have the entire... It doesn't have to be perfectly straight, because this is orc stuff we're talking about. So we're going to take our piece of card, and we're just going to stick it onto the edge like so. And to stick it down, we're going to use our super glue, because it will dry quickly. And you want to apply the super glue to the glossy side of the card so that it doesn't soak into the card. You just run along like that, and you just stick it onto the side like so. And then just to reinforce that joint, we're going to get a bit more super glue and just run it along. And then once you've done that, you'll do it on all of the other sides, and then you can cut some triangles and diamonds out of the card and just slap them on here and there to make it so that it looks more spiky and more orky. And for the racing and the sign on the front, we're going to get our good friend acrylic gap filler back, because it sets much quicker than PVA. And we just take some gap filler, and you're gonna have to use our fingers for this one, and you just put some on there like that. Other side, like so. You don't need much at all because we don't want any sort of squeezing out from the sides. And you can take your card then and stick it on, I'm going to put it on an angle sort of like that, like so. When you have taller ones, you want to try to put the sign so it's up towards the top more, but this is quite a short one, so putting it down low is just fine for that. And you repeat the same process for your bracing around the side. It's not actually structural, but it makes it look structural. Okay, now that we've got all the cards stuck on and our bracing and our sign, and it's looking pretty mad, there's one last step that we need to do before we can base coat it, and that is we need to add a gun. Because what kind of orc structure doesn't have at least one gun strapped to it? So for this one, I'm going to stick this, I think it's an auto cannon. Whatever it is, it doesn't matter because it's now orc gun. So we can get one of our offcuts of foam from when we angled off the legs, and we're going to just cut it down like so. We're going to cut it down something like that, about that sort of height. Maybe even just lop that very top bit off just to smooth it out. And we also need to smooth the bottom off because it was round at one point. Like so. So now we have a stand which our gun will go onto, and we're going to stick our stand down using a little bit of our gap filler just on the bottom like so, and I'm gonna have it right there. And then our gun, this one has a little peg on it, and we can just press it into the foam so we have a little indent. Then we can take a bit of gap filler and we can put that on top, and we're gonna take our auto cannon, whatever it is, and just press it in there. So to hold it in place while the gap filler goes off, we're going to bring in our other wire banner. We're going to bring in another weapon, or maybe even another 2 weapons, and we're just going to stack them up so that it's nice and balanced while it sets. And then once it's set, we can base coat it and get to the fun painting bit. Bam! And it's all stuck together, and I've base coated it. I base coated it using some of the hardware store paint just to get all the foam bits. Then I sprayed some black on with a spray can at the end just to get those bits. I recommend waiting and just being patient and going over with a brush for the whole thing, because if there are any bits of the foam that you missed, they will melt if you attack them with the spray can. So I would highly recommend avoid using the spray can if you can help it, but it looks like I've more or less gotten away with it this time due to the very thorough coverage of the foam with the black paint. So to start, we're going to give the wooden bits their wood texture. So to do that, I'm going to use a very simple technique for painting wood, given that we have put a texture on there. I'm going to start with some green, some dark green. To apply this one, we want to go over quite lightly with it. Take a good amount of it off your brush. Not really a dry brush, but just so that it's not soaked, and you can even drop it in the lid if you like. And we're just going to kind of lightly brush over the entire thing. Okay guys, so I finished applying the green to the wooden legs. So while that's drying, we're going to grab some lead belcher, or any dark metal will do. And we're going to paint basically the entire crow's nest, as well as these reinforcing bars and the side on the front, to give them a metallic feel, so that when we put whatever color we want our orcs to have painted it over the top, we still have some metallic shining through, which will make it look even more orky. So we're going to grab our lead belcher and just start applying it in a nice thin coat straight up the side there, trying not to get it on green. And you'll just do that over the entire thing. You'll want to put some here, and just sort of either on the gun as well. The gun's going to remain metal, so you probably want to put a bit more onto the metal, or paint it with whatever metal effect you want to have shining through. For those of you who want to go the extra step and have the time to do it, you can also put some rust effects here and there with some sort of coppery colours or even some browns after you've added your dark metal over all of the metallic bits to make it look like those bits of rust. So when you put the paint over the top, it looks like the paint's chipped off and rusted in places, which would be a really cool effect. So once you do that over the entire thing and your green has dried, we will put the next layer of paint on, which will be the brown for the legs. And I'm going to be putting some Ard blue over lots of these bits, as my orcs are deaf skulls, so blue is a lucky colour. Bam! Now I have painted the wooden bits dark green and the other bits metallic with my lead belcher. Now we need to make the wood bits actually look like wood and not green sticks. So we're going to grab this colour, which is Timber Loft, ironically enough named. So we're going to grab a brush. We're going to grab some of our brown paint, spread it out here, make a nice big mess, get a decent amount of it off. Then we're just going to brush over the green with it, nice and lightly. If you have some heavier spots, that's fine. And if you accidentally hit the metal bits, that's fine, because we're going to put, I'm going to put blue over it, but you can put whatever colour Orc Tribe, or yeah, I think it's Orc Tribes is what they're calling them now. Whatever Orc horde you are making. And just paint it up like that, and it comes up looking like wood fairly nicely. And then we're going to apply our blue to the metallic bits, leaving some metallic bits shiny by putting on a really thin coat. Then finish it off. I'm going to write Waaagh on it using some ceramite white, and might put some white bits elsewhere just to break up the blue a little bit. And then she'll be all done. Bam! And they're both done. I've done 2 of them here. I reckon if you put 5 or 6 of these around an orc base, they would look absolutely fantastic. But as for the Waaagh benders themselves, I reckon they've come out pretty good. I mean, check that out. It says Waaagh, it's all orky. You can put some white on some of the jaggedy bits and mix and match it a little bit if you want to. But yeah, I reckon they've come out pretty good. The wood's come out looking like wood. I've also added some carpet tacks. These ones there after I have painted the blue on, just so that they don't get blue on them, because the signs themselves aren't going to be held to the post by nothing. I mean, it's orcs, so they could be, but I reckon it adds a nice aesthetic having those carpet tacks on there. And these will give you a nice gunning position for some orcs to shoot any attacking hoomies or spiky boys from. So there you go, Waaagh benders. They're that easy to make, and they look fantastic on any orc-themed battlefield. And it doesn't take that long to make, and they're quite cheap as far as the materials you need to make them. I mean, it's just a bit of foam, some card, and some MDF, really. Then you paint it up to look mad, however you like, and you can put as much or as little detail into them as you want to. And as always, if you found this information useful and you like this video, please give it a thumbs up so that we know that you guys like it, so that we can keep making stuff that you like. And if you have an idea for any terrain that you'd like to see us make, chuck it in the comment section below. We'd love to hear from you. And if you want to improve your wargaming, make your tabletop battles more epic, and give your wargaming budget more power, then be sure to smash the crosshair and ding the bell. You'll subscribe, and I'll be able to share with you more battle reports, terrain tutorials, and strategies to make your wargaming experience more epic. And I'll see you next time.